Hey everybody, welcome to another Doug's Lab video. I'm sorry I haven't posted a video in a long time, but it's because I've been really busy in the lab, as well as with work and school and such. But today, instead of chemistry, I'm going to be demonstrating, or not demonstrating, I suppose I'm going to show you how I'm building a brand new atomizer burner for my foundry, which should work very, very well. Now I've managed to lift some large compressor pumps from, this is from a window unit air conditioner. It's a rotary style pump. 1 kilowatt, very powerful. It's got a 1/2 inch inlet and a 3/8 outlet. It's pretty good. And this one is smaller slightly, but still pretty powerful. This was also from a window unit, and of course I've got all the running gear with them, the starting caps and switches and things like that. And I've removed the thermostats. And anyway, so they're both in good working order. And I'm going to use this one to power my new atomizer burner. Now I've come up with a neat design for my new atomizer burner. My old atomizer used this, and this was the tip from a pilot light of a water heater. And it has a very small opening right there. And this came down and went inside another tube that was right about here. And there was a hole on the opposite end of the tube, and so air would blow through that tube and fuel would be in the front tube and it would atomize it. But I've come up with something better, because this one, the hole is much too small and I can't get a lot of air through it. And with this compressor, this can put out over 300 psi, so I was blowing fittings apart and things like that, and so I needed a regulator and stuff. So in fact I just went to the store today, picked up all the pieces I need for this, which is just a simple regulator. I got a needle valve up here, 1/4 inch needle valve, and then this is all 1/4 inch line. Well, it's like 3/8 ID, but it's 1/4 inch, or 3/8 OD, it's like 1/4 inch ID. And just a pressure gauge that goes 0 to 100 psi. And this just acts as a bleed valve, and I hook up my compressor to one side here, and on the other side is the output of air toward my burner. I also managed to pick up another needle valve while I was there. This one's a 3/8 needle valve, and this one's going to go on my fuel line, because my old fuel valve, if you look, my old burner is over here taken apart, but my old fuel valve, this fridge line valve, is just not cutting it with this little touchy device that would keep it down, and it's just a pain in the butt. So I'm going to replumb this all in 3/8 copper. I got a whole coil of it sitting on top of this the water heater unit I have over here, and then I think I'm going to get a new blower too. I'm not quite sure, but I might just be building a whole new burner here. Anyway, what I've discovered over here for the atomizer is that a 22 cartridge case with a primer knocked out, you can just use, obviously don't use a live round, but get a spent one, put a scratch awl in there, and separate the jaws of a vise just a little bit bigger than the primer, and you can set it in the gap between the jaws, put the scratch awl in it, and smack it with a hammer, and you can pop the primer out, or however you can decide to pop the primer out. Maybe you have a primer puller because you reload or something. But anyway, once you knock the primer out, you get a hole there, and the hole is about 1.2 millimeters across, and that'll make a great output nozzle for the fuel air mixture. Now to go inside it, obviously we need the smaller orifice for air inside here. So the fuel will be in the cartridge case, and we'll have another nozzle inside this that blows compressed air out this hole as well, and that gives us our little atomization effect. And I was originally going to use my old atomizer, because if you look, the water heater, the gas burner's pilot light tube, just happens to fit in there just nicely. It fits to just about the right length, and it's just about the right diameter too, so it would have made it really nice. But the thing is, this hole was just way too small, and plus this aluminum tubing is so malleable that I can almost crush it with my fingers. So, and I need something a little bit more robust. You can see this has been bent around a lot. So I was looking around. I have this 1/4 inch copper tubing from refrigerator line, and what I've discovered is that the crushed end of the copper tube is almost exactly as wide as the 9mm cartridge casing. In fact, it's just a little bit of an interference fit. So what I'm going to end up doing is, I got these straight pins right here. I'm going to take a pin, and these are 0.63 millimeters in diameter, and I will put the straight pin inside the tube, and then I'll hammer the tube flat, and then I can pull the pin out, and that will leave me with exactly the size hole I need. And then I can stick this and wedge it into the cartridge casing, and then solder it in there, and then use I don't know, either solder or some bits of copper or something like that to seal off the back of the cartridge casing. Then I can drill a hole in the top and run another tube straight out of the cartridge casing so that I can have my fuel tube going straight in, which will be 3/8, and my air going in the back as 1/4. And of course, the air will hook up to this over here, and the fuel will get plumbed in 3/8 at the top and be hooked to this, but somewhere back in a safe location. And of course, I have the front to my burner right here, and right in this hole, when this unthreads, it's actually a slot, and I can thread this down and pinch the tubing in there, and that's how I get it to stay. And I have actually some steel flat stock back here that I might weld to the top of here and bend it up like this, so I can have my pressure gauge and stuff over here and well out of the way of flames that come back out of the tweer sometimes. So anyway, I'm going to cut the video, and I'll have an update when this is working. So until then. Alright, I've got the air feed in. Notice how the tube has been flattened and soldered, and it's solid. And the pin that I smashed in the tube, you can see, is coming straight out the primer hole. And I can get needle nose pliers and yank that out later. And then that'll be the air line. Now all I need to do is make a fuel feed to the back of the cartridge case where the gap is between the airline and the fuel, or the airline and the case. And I'm going to achieve that with this ratty old piece of 3/8, because 3/8 is it's actually very close to 9mm. And what I think I'm going to do is cut it up the middle, split it, and then slide it over, and then solder the gaps so that the fuel line is sticking straight up, and then I can bend the air line straight up accordingly. So I'll take another video when that's done. Alright, the soldering job is done. As you can see, I split the one pipe in two and wrapped it around the other one, soldered it up, and the pin is still sticking out, but it does prove airtight when I plug that end and blow in this end and hold my hand over that. So I think we're good. It's going to be suction anyway, so the worst that could happen is you get air in the fuel line. And honestly, this doesn't get that hot, so I could probably seal it with epoxy if I really had to, but I prefer solder. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to pull that pin out, and this fits into the burner tube like this. I'm gonna, if my camera will focus, there we go. The burner tube's slotted like that. The air line is going to go back toward the blower, and the fuel tube comes out the slot. And then of course I have a big heavy reducer here, which bottoms out before that, so I'm going to have to put a spacer there, but that's fine. And of course that means the incoming airstream only sees just that, basically. It's going to be a heck of an atomizer. Alright, I'll post another video, because this one's getting kind of long, when I get this all rigged up and the atomizer is running with the big compressor over there and everything. So until then, this is another Doug's Lab video. Subscribe, rate, and comment.